Before this video starts, I just have a quick note. I am experimenting with the audio quality. I am not an expert on technology or production or anything like that, and I have been experiencing with this microphone that you see on screen. I have been using the microphone and you didn't see it because it was lower. I wanted to see if putting it closer made the audio sound better, which in hindsight I don't know why I thought that it would, and of course it's not good. It wasn't a good idea. So the audio quality in this video is not great. I'm sorry. So bear with me. I'm sorry for the quality in this video. And yeah, hello everyone and welcome back to Milena Reads Books. My name is Milena and today I am here with a tag, as you can see from the title of this video. So this is a tag that was actually created in 2018 by Only If for a Page. Recently, Marcela and her books, she revived the tag, and I actually saw this tag in a new channel I discovered, and of course I'm going to link everyone that I mentioned down below as always. But this is the International Booktuber tag, which is a tag for booktubers that are non-English speakers, like not native English speakers. And as Marcela said in her video, of course international depends where you are. So if you're in Mexico and you're from Mexico, a person from the US would be international, right? But I think the spirit of this tag is international in the sense of you are doing videos in a language that is not your native language. So question number 1 is, where are you from and what is your native language or native languages? So I am from Mexico and my native language is Spanish. Question number 2 is, in what language do you read books? I read books in English and I read books in Spanish. And here I want to say something funny, because last video I explained how before BookTube, I used to read mostly in Spanish. Then, when I started watching BookTube, I mostly started watching BookTube in English, and they read a lot of genre fiction, which is my cup of tea, and of course, books in English. And so I started reading a lot in English. And so I started getting this notion that books that were originally published in English, I should read them in English, and I started doing that to the point where I almost stopped reading in Spanish unless they were, originally written in Spanish. Except that a lot of Latin American literature is mostly literary fiction, or novels, and like contemporary novels, and I don't read a lot of that. And I literally did a reflection about that in my previous video, and when I was watching Marcela's video for this tag, she did the same reflection. So I think maybe that's something that we all go through, because now I am trying to go back to the habit of reading in Spanish when I have the books available to me in Spanish. I still have this idea of, I don't know, if it's like a Victorian English novel, I will read it in English, but if it's a classic from Russia or from France, instead of picking up the translated to English, picking up the translated to Spanish. And again, Marcela did that same reflection in her video where she was saying that, and I literally said that in my previous video, and I thought it was funny. Anyway, to answer the question, I read books in both languages, and currently I'm reading a lot in Spanish. Okay, the next question is there a booktube in your native language, and what is the community like? And yes, there is. There's a lot of booktubers who speak Spanish, also because Spanish is widely spoken throughout the world. So there is a Mexican booktube community, there is a Spanish booktube community, Argentinian booktube community, Colombian booktube community. There are Spanish speakers all over the world doing booktube videos in Spanish, and the communities are, I guess, very different depending on the different countries. But recently I've been watching a lot of booktube in Spanish, and I have been noticing some interesting differences. I think that there are a lot of factors that influence, and it is very interesting to see the different behaviors of the same community in different countries. And I think it would be interesting to analyze. If I was doing, I don't know, studying anthropology or something like that, I would totally do my thesis on analyzing the cultural differences between different booktube communities. I think that would be super interesting. Anyway, so I am really enjoying that difference. It has been like a breath of fresh air for me. Okay, so the next question is, if there is a booktube community in your language, why did you choose to join the international booktube community? And there are different factors for this. So one of them is because, as you know, because I've told you in videos, I do videos for work. I have a channel, and I have a Patreon, and I have a blog, and I have Instagram. My real life work revolves around social media in Spanish, and I do anti-productivity time management teaching. And so because of that, I wanted to separate my work life from my booktube life, because for me this is 100% a hobby, this channel, and I wanted it to remain that way. And so I wanted no connection with my work life. Now I feel a bit differently, and now I do talk more openly about this channel in my other social media. And I'm if anyone speaks Spanish and is curious, I'll link my other channel down below, because now that I have had this channel for long enough, I know where it is. But when I started, I thought it would be best to keep it separate, so that's why. And then the other reason is because, as I told you, I started watching booktube in English because the algorithm recommended me channels in English, and I started commenting on those channels, and I started making friends. And so when I opened my channel, I already had friends that made videos in English. And so I wanted to join their community because this is mainly a social activity for me. The next question is, are there any struggles for you? I don't know how the question is worded, but are there any struggles for you for filming videos in your, or for being part of the international booktube community, I guess? And yes, there are. So one is obviously the language. When I film videos, I struggle with vocabulary mostly. This happens to me also in body reads. When I am doing my check-ins with Elle, when I'm sending her a Voxer message, sometimes I want to say things, and I'm always telling her vocabulary. I can't think of the word, because sometimes I think of the exact word that I want to use for a book or a character or a moment or a feeling or whatever, but it is in Spanish, and I can't think of that word in English. And so I just use the same words. Interesting, fascinating, amazing. I'm already a hyperbolic person, but I feel like I sound even more hyperbolic in my reviews because I literally can't think of words in English for some things. So that is one. Then another one would be that I have to edit my videos more. When I film videos in Spanish, I can very easily improvise and just talk and talk and talk and not need to edit as much. When I film in English, I do have to edit because there are sometimes where I'm like, what's it called? What's the word? Or I can't think of something, so I just ramble until I get there. Which, of course, like you can also ramble in your language, but it's not the same kind of ramble, you know? It is a ramble of trying to explain something using other words because you can't think of the appropriate words. So I do have to edit. I would like to be one of those people who just uploads a video without editing. I could never do that. The other one is, for example, currently on Historathon, I read a lot of books in Spanish because I'm reading Mexican history. And a lot of them I can't recommend because they are in Spanish. But not only for Historathon, just in general. For instance, at the moment I'm reading a lot of books in Spanish. Not all of them are translated. So I struggle with that both ways. So I struggle with that I read a lot of books in English that I can't recommend in my channel in Spanish. I mean, I do talk about them, but I don't want to only talk about books in English, you know? And the same here. Like, I can talk about the books in Spanish that I've been reading, but I don't only want to talk about them. And sometimes there are some books that I feel like would be perfect for whoever of my friends here, but they can't read it because it's not translated. And then the next question is, how do you get books in English? And I mean, I think that's an interesting question because we live in the era of online shopping. So, you know, online shopping, that's how. There is a section of books in English in bookstores here. Like, for instance, the biggest bookstore is Gandhi. And Gandhi does have a section. As you know, nowadays I mostly read on my Kindle. When it's fiction, I do have like a criteria for which books I pick on paper and which on my Kindle. Maybe that would be another video. But so mostly novels or fiction or like that type of thing, I read it on my Kindle. So that's how I get the books on my Kindle. A fun fact, though, would be that the Kindle catalog is different for different countries. It's kind of like Netflix or other streaming sites where the catalog is not the same in every country. The next question is, what is the best part of being part of the international BookTube community? And I would say the social aspect. I have a lot of friends. The Discord communities, which of course you can have the social aspect in any BookTube community, but I do think it's cool to have friends from all over the world. Which again, that's also true. For instance, in BookTube in Spanish, because as I said, you have people from Spain, you have people from Colombia, from Mexico, from Argentina, from Guatemala, from like everywhere. So, you know, big channels in Spanish do get a lot of international viewers. So you do get that social aspect there too. But I'm part of this community, so I'm making friends here. So yeah. And the final question is, do you watch international booktubers? And again, international for this tag means booktubers doing videos in English whose native language is not English. And yes, I do. I think there are a lot of people who are not native English speakers who have channels in English. So some that I can talk about off the top of my head are another Mexican booktuber would be Just Juan Reader. He has the best channel name on BookTube. Just Juan Reader. He is also from Mexico and he's from Mexico City. Natalie at A Curious Reader, Ollie at Chaotic Bibliophile, Milena Reads. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head, but I will also go ahead and link down below channels I love in Spanish. I know that not everyone speaks Spanish, but some people do, and if you want to check out some cool channels in Spanish, I'm going to leave some of my favorites down below, including all-time favorites or recent discoveries. And that would be it for today. I'm going to leave it at that. There are no more questions. It was longer than I thought. I'm sorry for all the noise. I hope it wasn't too bad. I will find out during editing, and I will see you in another bookish video soon. And in the meantime, I wish you happy reading.